Do you want to escape poverty? Change your life, gain freedom, and build something that lasts? Then let me tell you something most people won't have the courage to say. You won't get rich just by working hard. You won't get rich just by wishing, praying, or dreaming. Poverty isn't broken by luck. It's broken by sacrifice. Here's the truth. Most people want the harvest, but they don't want to plant. They want applause, but not the silence. They want abundance, while still defending the habits that keep them stuck in scarcity. And the craziest part? The key is right in front of you, but it comes with a price. And most people aren't willing to pay. Today, I'm going to show you the 10 silent sacrifices made by the top 5% of successful people in the world. The same sacrifices the other 95% unconsciously reject. And if you have the courage to listen all the way through, you may finally understand why your reality isn't changing and exactly what to do next. But be warned, some of these sacrifices will make you uncomfortable. Others will challenge everything you believe. And the last one might flip your world upside down. But if you're ready to stop making excuses and start transforming your life, then come with me. Because this message isn't for everyone. It's for those who are done lying to themselves and ready to rise. Sacrifice number 1, trade television for knowledge. Have you ever stopped to think about how much of your day is given to something that adds nothing to your future? Look, I'm not against watching TV. I'm not against rest or a bit of fun. But the problem starts when entertainment stops being a break and becomes a lifestyle. Because when distraction turns into routine, mediocrity finds a home. Television doesn't rob you violently. It robs you gently. An episode here, another one there. And before you know it, you've given away 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours a day to stories that aren't even yours. Meanwhile, your own dreams stay stuck, waiting for you to take them seriously. Be careful with comfort that costs no effort, because eventually it charges you everything. If you want to escape poverty, you need to feed your mind with knowledge, not distraction. Just one book a month can shift someone's mindset. Yet many go years without reading a single chapter. They'd rather watch soap operas, sports, or the news repeating tragedy after tragedy, and then wonder why their mind is tired, their energy drained, and their life going nowhere. What you feed your mind shapes who you become. And if you're only consuming entertainment, don't be surprised if your life starts looking like fiction, just without the happy ending. Your brain needs stimulation. It needs new ideas, bold perspectives, challenges that push it past the comfort zone. A poor mind settles for easy. A wealthy mind seeks what transforms. Now listen closely. The time you spend in front of the TV might be the very time that's standing between you and your breakthrough. Just 1 hour of reading a day equals 365 hours in a year. That's more than most technical degrees. It's more than many college programs offer. That level of knowledge can shift your career, your income, your relationships, your entire worldview. But of course, this takes sacrifice, because it's always easier to consume than to build. Easier to sit on the couch and watch a comedy than to read a challenging book, listen to a financial podcast, or take a class on something you don't yet understand. But winners don't choose what's easy. They choose what works. And what works is the discipline to study, grow, and learn every single day. I've met people who constantly complained about a lack of opportunity. But if you looked at their daily habits, the truth became obvious. The problem wasn't time, it was priorities. Because poverty doesn't come from nowhere. It's born out of habits. And one of the worst habits is choosing entertainment over education. I always say, knowledge is the passport to freedom. But like any passport, it requires investment of time, of attention, of willingness. No one is born ready, but everyone has the chance to grow. The question is, what are you doing with your evenings? Your Sundays? That so-called free time you treat as rest could actually be the difference between success and frustration. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying to never watch TV again. What I'm saying is that you need to flip the formula. Let education be the foundation and entertainment the extra, not the other way around. Because when you only feed on distractions, you lose your appetite for what truly matters. And that's when stagnation sets in. You stop growing and don't even notice. You don't have to become a genius overnight. You just need to start, one book at a time, one valuable video a day, a notebook filled with the ideas that hit you hardest. Over time, this becomes a lifestyle, a new mental standard, and new mental standards create new results. It's that simple. Mental poverty always comes before financial poverty. Always. A weak, unfed, distracted mind won't survive the pressure of reality. That's why so many give up, settle, or accept far less than they deserve. But when you strengthen your mind with knowledge, you gain clarity, decision power, and boldness to pursue what's truly yours. So if you want to leave poverty behind, start by walking away from the screen that numbs you and walk toward the information that awakens you. Swap a meaningless show for a powerful book. Trade a lazy afternoon for a deep morning of focus. And do this every single day, because wealth doesn't appear suddenly. It arrives quietly as a result of small, consistent choices. In the end, you'll realize the real luxury isn't having a giant TV on your wall. It's having a giant mind in your head. And that, my friend, no one can ever take from you. Sacrifice number 2, trade blame for responsibility. Blaming others is easy. Blame the government. Blame your parents. Blame the school system, your boss, the economy. And listen, I get it. Sometimes those things really do make it harder. But here's a truth that could change your life. As long as you're blaming something outside of you, you're giving away the power to change. Blame might give you comfort, but it will never give you progress. Only responsibility puts your hands back on the wheel. Poverty loves excuses. It feeds on them. No one taught me. Life's unfair. I didn't have the same opportunities. That might all be true. But here's the question that changes everything. What are you going to do about it? Because while you're pointing fingers, the days keep slipping by. And time has no mercy on those who play the victim. It only rewards those who take charge. Responsibility is heavy, but it's the only weight that builds strength. The moment you say, "This is on me," something powerful happens. You take back control. You stop being a passenger in your life and start writing your own direction. It's not easy, but it's non-negotiable. If you want to rise, you can't keep outsourcing your failures. I've heard people say, "But Jim, you don't know where I come from." And I tell them, where you came from matters less than where you're going. And the only way out of a place you don't want to be is by owning every step from here forward. Life doesn't change when the world changes. Life changes when you do. Responsibility isn't about blaming yourself. It's about committing to change. Maybe it wasn't your fault you ended up where you are, but it is your responsibility to not stay there. Because life is rarely fair to anyone all the time, but it always rewards those who stop complaining and start building. And once you take full ownership, everything changes. You start seeing solutions where before there were only walls. You stop waiting for luck and start choosing wisely. And that clarity is more valuable than any expensive degree because it shifts your entire mindset. The mindset of blame keeps you paralyzed. It makes you wait for someone else to fix things, for the system to improve, for the next year to magically be better. But the person who takes ownership doesn't wait, they act. They study even when tired. They show up even when afraid. And those actions build results that most people believe are impossible. Taking full responsibility is like turning on a light in a dark room. You begin to see your mistakes with clarity. And that's liberating, because when you blame the world, you keep repeating the same errors. But when you say, "This was my choice," you learn. And the ones who learn, they evolve. This isn't about being harsh with yourself. It's about being honest. Blame wounds. Responsibility heals. Because responsibility calls you forward, it doesn't shrink you. And the more responsibility you take, the more life starts to respond. As if the universe is saying, now you're ready for the next level. And here's something powerful. The people around you will start to shift when you shift. Responsibility is contagious. When you stop making excuses and start owning your journey, your example becomes louder than any speech. And slowly, you attract others who also live in action, not complaint. Most people want a miracle, but the real miracle begins the moment you take control. The day you stop saying, "It's their fault," and start asking, "What can I do about it?" That's the day poverty starts to lose its grip on you. Because prosperity lives on the same street as ownership. But not everyone's brave enough to knock on that door. So, if you truly want to change your life, here's where to begin. Change your posture toward life. Step out of victimhood and into authorship. Because the main character doesn't wait for the script to change. He rewrites the script, and when he fails, he rewrites it again. Because the one who takes responsibility always returns stronger, while the one who blames returns with more excuses. And if you feel stuck, trapped, paralyzed, maybe it's because you're still hoping someone else will fix things for you. But they won't. No one's going to hand you a new life. That part is yours. The world might offer tools, but it's up to you to learn how to use them. That's the game. And the sooner you accept it, the faster you rise. Responsibility is a sacrifice, because pointing is easier than rising. Blaming is easier than changing. But if you truly want to win, you must be willing to pay that price. Because the one who takes full responsibility for failure is the same one who earns the right to build their own success. Sacrifice number 3. Trade comfort for the discomfort of growth. You know what's strange? Most people say they want to grow, but they cling to the exact same routine every single day. Wake up at the same time, do the same tasks, talk to the same people, think the same thoughts, and somehow expect different results. But that's not growth. That's repetition. And repetition without direction is just a sophisticated form of stagnation. Growth requires disruption, and every disruption comes with pain. It demands doing what you're not used to, thinking what you've never dared to think, and pushing yourself even when everything around you begs you to stay the same. Growth is uncomfortable, but staying in a comfortable routine costs even more. It costs your excitement, your evolution, your potential, and often your financial freedom. Comfortable routines are sneaky. They don't feel dangerous. After all, what's wrong with sleeping in, repeating habits, avoiding risks? Nothing, if you're satisfied with where you are. But if you want something new, you have to do something new. And the new always feels uncomfortable. The right question isn't, does this hurt? It's, is this worth it? The ones who rise already know the answer. They wake up earlier than they'd like. They study when their body craves rest. They train when the couch is calling. They expose themselves to the unknown, to criticism, to risk. Not because they enjoy the pain, but because they've discovered something powerful. The discomfort of growth is temporary, but the rewards last forever. If you want to grow, you will go through phases where you feel out of place, where it feels like you're walking against the crowd, where your choices seem crazy to people living on autopilot. But that discomfort is proof that you're evolving, because growth never happens inside your comfort zone. I get it. It's easier to repeat, easier to stick with what you know, easier to avoid what's new. But every time you choose what's easy, you say no to your next level. You trade progress for safety, and too much safety becomes a prison. The bars aren't made of steel. They're made of routines that feel nice but slowly kill your dreams. So many people say, one day I'll change, but that day never comes. Why? Because they wait to feel motivated. But here's the truth. Growth doesn't begin when you feel like it. It begins when you move without motivation. When you realize that doing what's right matters more than doing what's comfortable. The discomfort of growth builds inner strength. It teaches you how to deal with failure, with criticism, with doubt. And those are skills you can't learn in theory, only in action. While others run from the hard stuff, you learn how to use it. And that's what separates the average from the extraordinary. Everyone wants the reward, but few want the path. Everyone wants financial freedom, a sharp mind, a strong body. But not everyone is willing to give up late nights, junk food, and mindless distractions. Growth demands that you trade quick pleasure for long-term purpose. And that trade isn't natural, it's intentional. You might be stuck in a routine that gives you comfort, but not results. And maybe the most courageous thing you could do today is break that cycle. Face the pain of change now, or live with the regret of inaction later. Because the time will pass either way. The only question is, will you grow with it or stay the same? If you stay where you are, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. But if you step beyond, even afraid, even unsure, even uncomfortable, you open new possibilities. Growth doesn't shout. It whispers. Come, but it's going to hurt. And it's up to you to choose. The pain of change or the pain of regret. No real success is born on a couch. It's born in the field, in sweat, in consistency, in discomfort. And every time you voluntarily face that discomfort, you're building a stronger version of yourself. One that can handle more, create more, win more, and most importantly, one that refuses to settle for less than it can become. The world is changing constantly, and if you don't grow, you fall behind. But if you're willing to pay the price of transformation, even when it's uncomfortable, you'll discover something amazing. The discomfort fades, but the victory remains. And in the end, you won't remember the pain of change. You'll remember the joy of becoming someone better. So my advice is simple. Don't wait for growth to find you. Go find it. Break the comfortable routine. Embrace the new. And accept discomfort as a sign that you're on the right track. Because in the end, those who grow are the ones who learn to move, even when everything inside them wanted to stay still. Sacrifice number 4, trade toxic company for mentors and uplifting influences. You've heard it before, and I'll say it again. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Sounds like a cliche? It's not. Your environment shapes your behavior. Your conversations shape your thoughts, and your thoughts shape your life. That's why, if you want to change your life, you must change who you walk with. This is one of the hardest sacrifices, but it's also one of the most powerful. Some people love you, but they don't help you. Others seem harmless, but they quietly delay your destiny. There are friendships that aren't malicious, just limited. But if you stay in place out of emotional loyalty, you'll stay stuck with them. That's not arrogance, it's maturity. Growth hurts. Growth separates. But not growing? That imprisons you. You might say, but they're my childhood friends. Sure, and maybe that's the problem. If they still think the way they did at 15, and you want to succeed at 30, someone has to evolve. And if it's not them, let it be you. Because your results don't depend only on your choices. They also depend on what you allow in the environment around you. And here's the truth. Toxic people aren't always bad people. Sometimes they're just stuck. They live on autopilot. They complain about everything. They mock your dreams. They treat discipline like it's too much, and success like it's just luck. If you surround yourself with that kind of energy every day, even if you're strong, you'll start absorbing their mindset without even noticing. Poverty loves company. It spreads in groups. It's a contagious mindset, full of phrases like, "No one gets rich honestly." That's not for people like us. They were just lucky. Those phrases sound small, but they build mental prisons. And at some point, you must have the courage to say, "This no longer serves me." Jim Rohn once said, "If you hang around with people who don't want to grow, soon you'll either be just like them or you'll be alone." And let me add this. Be ready for temporary loneliness, because when you start to rise, the crowd that once surrounded you won't climb with you. And that's okay, because at the top, you'll find others who also chose to pay the price. This sacrifice means walking away, no longer laughing at the same tired jokes, no longer going to the same unproductive places, no longer tolerating the same energy-draining conversations. That's not ingratitude. That's protection. You're protecting your vision, your drive, your belief in yourself. Because your mission is too sacred to be drowned in a sea of mediocrity disguised as real friendship. And when you make space, something amazing happens. Mentors appear. Uplifting influences come your way. People who challenge you to think bigger, act better, dream bolder. They don't flatter you. They confront you. They don't say what you want to hear. They say what you need to hear. And their presence accelerates your journey. Maybe you don't have a mentor in person yet. That's okay. They're out there, in books, in podcasts, in meaningful content. You can learn from someone you've never met. The key is this. Choose who feeds your mind. Because just like junk food ruins the body, empty conversations poison the mind. You don't have to cut everyone off overnight, but you must start creating distance from those holding you back. With respect, with maturity, but with clarity. At the same time, get closer to people who are already where you want to be. because growth becomes easier when you walk beside those who've built the road. I always say, life gets better when your conversations get better. Trade. Did you see what happened on reality TV? 4. How do you invest your money? Trade. That's impossible. 4. Who made it happen? And what can they teach me? The right company accelerates progress. The wrong company distracts you from purpose. And sometimes, one bad piece of advice delays your dreams by 5 years. So choose carefully. Be selective. Your energy is too precious to waste in places where you have to explain why you want more from life. And remember, walking away isn't rejection. It's a commitment to your future, to your family, to your purpose. Some people will only understand your absence when they finally see the results of your discipline. Until then, be at peace with the silence, because silence often means you're finally aligned with something greater. So let me ask you this. Are you willing to step away from those who are pulling you away from your dreams? Because this is one of the highest prices of prosperity, but it's also one of the most powerful shifts you'll ever make. Walk with those who lift you, those who stretch you, those who make you better. Because success, my friend, isn't a solo journey. It's a team sport, played by those who think big. Sacrifice number 5. Trade instant pleasure for lasting reward. We live in an era of now. Food in minutes, entertainment in a click, shopping in seconds. And what has that created? A generation that wants results without process, success without sacrifice, victory without the grind. But here's a timeless truth. Anything worth having requires time, patience, and discipline. Instant pleasure is comfortable, but lasting reward is transformational. The problem with instant pleasure is that it numbs you. It eases the boredom, the frustration, the emptiness, but only for a few minutes. When the effect wears off, you're right back where you started. Or worse, because every time you choose relief over progress, you're reinforcing a cycle that keeps you stuck in the same place. And that cycle feeds off your impatience. Lasting reward, on the other hand, demands maturity. It requires the strength to say no to what feels good now, so you can say yes to what truly matters later. And that's rare. Few people have the courage to skip a flashy purchase in order to invest in their future. Few people will say no to a night out so they can build a project that might take months to pay off. But those few live a life the majority only dream of. Instant pleasure gives the illusion of control, but steals your autonomy. You become a slave to your urges, to the swipe, to the click, to the consumption. But delayed gratification makes you stronger. It shows you that you can wait, that you can withstand, that you can be patient with purpose. And that builds character, the one thing money can't buy. Remember, the difference between a child and an adult isn't age. It's the ability to delay gratification. Children want everything now. Adults build, plant, invest, and then they harvest. If you don't learn to wait, life will teach you the hard way. Because everything that comes too fast leaves just as fast. The discipline to delay pleasure is like a muscle. It hurts at first, but over time, it gives you strength. The kind of strength that helps you say no to things that used to control you. You start by saying no to a daily overpriced coffee, and suddenly, you realize you can say no to anything that holds you back. That kind of power is priceless. Instant pleasure whispers, you deserve this. And you do, but not right now. You deserve peace, freedom, a respected name. And that isn't built with shortcuts. It's built through conscious choices made daily, even when no one's watching, even when the world thinks you're missing out. But you're not missing out. You're stacking up. Every no to the now is a yes to your future. When you skip takeout and cook at home, you're not just saving money, you're gaining health. When you skip an impulse buy, you're gaining freedom. When you skip the distraction, you're gaining self-control. This shift isn't automatic, it takes vision, because the world is designed to train your impulse. But the top 5%, they've learned to play the long game. They know a month of effort won't deliver miracles, but a year of consistency will change everything. And consistency only exists when you master small daily temptations. Want to know who's going to win over the next 5 years? Watch who's waking up early with no one forcing them. Watch who's reading with no school requiring it. Watch who's saving, even when they don't have to. They're building something you can't see yet, but soon it'll be impossible to ignore. Most people look at them and say, "Why go through all that?" But when the results come, the same people who doubted become curious. Because the real difference is what you do in the dark. It's in the silence of sacrifice that great results are forged. The reward always comes to those who can resist, those who choose to plant, even while the rest are distracted by harvests they didn't earn. Delaying gratification is a sign of emotional intelligence, and one of the biggest keys to inner peace. Because when you learn to wait for what's worth it, you stop settling for scraps, and you start building banquets. So next time something offers you instant relief, ask yourself, does this move me closer to the life I want, or pull me further away? Because every small decision is shaping your future, or sabotaging it. The choice is yours, and it's made silently every single day. The ones who know how to wait are the ones who, in the end, have more than they ever imagined. Sacrifice number 6, trade consumption for construction. You know what most people do when they start earning a little more money? They increase their spending. A new phone, brand name clothes, maxed out installments. Because we've been trained to believe that showing prosperity is the same as having prosperity. But it's not. Consumption gives you status. Construction gives you freedom. And freedom, my friend, is priceless. There's a huge difference between spending and investing. One rewards you now, the other rewards you for life. But as long as you're spending more than you're building, you'll stay trapped in the cycle. Work, spend, wait for the next paycheck. And before you know it, years have passed, and you've aged, without building anything solid. Because it was all spent feeding an ego that never stops asking for more. The top 5% think differently. They treat money like seeds, not trophies. Before they buy new sneakers, they invest in knowledge. Before upgrading their car, they build an emergency fund. Before showing off, they structure. Because they know real wealth isn't about what you show. It's about what you can sustain, even when no one's watching. This sacrifice is silent. You'll see friends going on trips while you save. You'll watch coworkers shopping while you choose to wait. You'll hear family members laughing while you study. And it may feel unfair until the harvest comes. Consumption brings pleasure. Construction brings security. And sleeping with peace of mind, that's worth more than any possession. I'm not saying you should live like a miser. I'm saying live like a builder. Someone who knows what they want and acts with strategy. Who can say not yet today, so they can say now it's time tomorrow. Because consumers stay dependent, but builders start to decide, to choose, to drive their own path. Society doesn't encourage you to build. It trains you to consume. Storefronts scream for your attention. Notifications bombard you with deals. Marketing knows how to seduce your insecurities. That's why you need to train your eyes. You have to learn to see beyond the package. Because what shines the most on the outside is often empty inside. Builders buy less, but live more fully. They may own fewer things, but have more purpose. They might appear simple, but they are stable. Because they're not focused on impressing. They're focused on growing. And those who grow with consistency eventually live lives that consumers can't afford, no matter how many credit cards they have. Building requires patience. It requires repetition, reflection, and planning. But builders understand that value doesn't come from speed. It comes from stability. Every dollar saved, every course completed, every skill learned, every client earned. It's brick by brick, layer by layer, until one day, the structure stands on its own. When you overconsume, you live to work. But when you build, you work to live. And that shift changes everything. Because money stops being a burden and becomes a tool. You're no longer just paying bills. You're funding your vision. And that transition is what separates those who merely survive from those who truly prosper. Some will say, but life is short, I want to enjoy it. Absolutely, and you should. But enjoy it wisely. Enjoy becoming the kind of person who doesn't have to pretend they have it. Because they actually do. And they know exactly how they got it. With sacrifice, strategy, and vision. I often say, don't be ashamed to live below your means. Be ashamed to live above them. That's not living, that's pretending. And pretending is expensive. Peace of mind is worth more than a new car. Self-control is more valuable than designer clothes. And building something no one can take from you. That's more powerful than anything behind a store window. Start small. An emergency fund, a monthly investment, a personal project, a side hustle, a book a month, a debt paid with discipline. Every act of construction is an act of respect for your future. And every avoided purchase is an open door to your freedom. So stop and reflect. What are you doing with your income? Are you building something or just feeding the ego? Because what you do with $100, you'll do with 1,000. And what you do with 1,000, you'll do with 10,000. Mindset comes before multiplication. If you don't learn to build now, you'll never be ready for more. So build, even in silence, even without applause, even without likes. Build something that can withstand crisis, that outlasts opinions, that rises above your own anxiety. Because what you're building today will become the solid ground where your freedom walks tomorrow. Sacrifice number 7. Trade social acceptance for personal excellence. Have you ever noticed how most people live just to be accepted? They follow the trends, or what's popular, say what others want to hear, avoid conflict, and blend into the crowd. And why? Because deep down, they crave belonging. They want to be seen, validated, liked. But here's the problem. Living for acceptance often costs you your authenticity. And eventually, you wake up realizing you've lost yourself just to make others comfortable. The pursuit of social approval is silent, but dangerous. It makes you say yes when you wanted to say no. It makes you hide your dreams so no one gets uncomfortable. It makes you shrink yourself just to fit in. But the top 5%, the ones who break through, they choose something different. They choose personal excellence. And let me tell you, that takes courage. Because the path of excellence is lonely at first, but deeply rewarding in the end. When you decide to rise above, think bigger, act differently, be ready. People will call you arrogant. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you think you're better. But here's the truth. Criticism rarely comes from those ahead of you. It usually comes from those stuck, who feel ashamed for standing still. And your growth becomes a mirror they can't avoid. A reflection of everything they chose not to face. Social acceptance is comfort disguised as connection. But if you want to stand out, you'll often need to step away. Not because you're better, but because your vision is bigger. And when you choose to be accepted by everyone, you often end up belonging nowhere that really matters. Excellence, on the other hand, is an internal standard. It's doing your best even when no one's watching. It's showing up earlier, staying longer, studying deeper. Not to impress, but because you know you're capable of more. Society will always try to drag you down to average, but you weren't made to live on autopilot. Choosing excellence over acceptance means you'll be misunderstood for a while. People won't get your discipline. They won't understand your no's. They'll laugh at your standards. But when the results come, the same people who mock you will ask how you did it. And you'll remember, you chose the hard road when everyone else chose easy comfort. Look, it's human to want to belong. We all want connection. But true belonging is only worth it if you can be yourself. What's the point of friendships where you have to hide your ambition? What's the point of circles that belittle your effort? That's not belonging. That's emotional prison. Personal excellence begins when you stop living for other people's approval. When you realize it's better to walk alone for a season than to get lost in a crowd that has no direction. The noise of approval will never compensate for the silence of a purposeless life. And excellence, true excellence, is quiet. It speaks through your results. You don't need to shout. You don't need to explain. You just need to keep going. While others talk, you build. While others judge, you grow. And one day, what you've built will be too big to ignore. Excellence doesn't chase applause. It earns respect. And respect lasts much longer than momentary approval. Those who choose excellence give up a lot. Parties, praise, popularity. But they gain something no one can take away. Pride, peace, and a clear conscience. That deep knowing that you stayed true to what matters. And that feeling, that's worth more than 1,000 compliments. Of course, there will be hard days. days when you wonder if it's all worth it. But in those moments, remember, the crowd changes its mind every season. But excellence builds a legacy. And a legacy is what's left when the applause fades. It's what lives on after the spotlight is gone. It's what remains, even when you're no longer around. Saying no to social acceptance isn't easy, but it's necessary if you ever want to say yes to your greatness. Because you'll never please everyone. So choose to please the one person who matters most. The highest version of yourself. Not the lazy you. Not the fearful you. The disciplined, driven, purposeful you. So ask yourself, would you rather be applauded for blending in or respected for standing out? The choice is yours. But just know, every time you choose excellence, even in silence, even alone, you move closer to the life you were born to live. And that is worth every sacrifice. Sacrifice number 8. Trade hurry for strategic patience. We live in a generation that confuses speed with direction. Everyone wants to move fast, but few actually know where they're going. And that's the danger. When you rush, you risk building things you'll later have to tear down. Hurry makes you skip steps. It makes you act out of anxiety. It makes you compare your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. But real success, it's not instant. It's patient. It's deliberate. It's earned. The world sells you shortcuts all day long. Get rich in 7 days. Learn a language while you sleep. Make money with just one click. But reality? Reality is different. Every solid foundation takes time. Every seed needs a season to grow. And because most people refuse to honor the process, they quit too early. They want to harvest the day after they plant. The top 5% think differently. They play the long game. They know that nothing worth having comes overnight. And sometimes, waiting is the smartest move you can make. Because when you have vision, patience isn't about standing still. It's about moving with strategy, even when the results haven't shown up yet. Hurry breeds anxiety, and anxiety is the enemy of consistency. An anxious person always trades what's important for what's urgent. They jump from one plan to the next, one idea to another, without depth. And it's exhausting, like trying to fill a bucket full of holes. The faster you go, the more you lose. But the patient, they dig deep. They build roots. They create something strong enough to carry weight. Sacrificing hurry means understanding that time is not your enemy. It's your ally. Time teaches. Time tests. Time reveals what's real. If your motivation can't survive time, it's not motivation. It's just excitement. And excitement doesn't build legacies. Commitment does. Look, I'm not saying live life in slow motion. I'm saying move with rhythm, not impulse. Hurry is chaos. Rhythm is clarity. Hurry screams. Rhythm listens. Hurry quits. Rhythm adapts. And in the end, those who move with rhythm always go farther. When you sacrifice hurry, you begin to respect the process. You accept that the hard seasons are part of the journey. That invisible progress is just as valuable as the visible kind. Real growth happens in silence. While the world thinks you're standing still, you're actually being shaped. Strategic patience is active. It works while it waits. It learns while it sows. It moves with purpose because it knows the right moment always comes, but only for those who are ready. And many people aren't because they're so busy chasing speed. They forget to build the structure to sustain success. Hurry is expensive. It makes you start businesses before you're ready, enter relationships without clarity, make decisions you'll regret. And the time you think you're saving by rushing, you'll lose twice as much fixing what you did in a hurry. The ones who go far are the ones who learn to go slow enough, but they never have to go back. Mature people know how to wait, not because they're slow, but because they have vision. They know what takes time, lasts, but the impatient burn themselves out. They try to force the harvest and end up reaping anxiety, frustration, and regret. Strategic patience doesn't mean settling. It means waiting for what's worth it. It means turning down fast opportunities because you're preparing for something bigger. And life always rewards those who honor the process. If you're planting the right seeds, keep going, even if no one sees it yet, even if nothing seems to be happening. The speed of others doesn't define your pace. The timing of others doesn't control your clock. Sacrifice the need to prove something right now and start building something that will speak for itself forever. And remember, there's a time to plant, a time to water, a time to wait, and a time to reap. But the harvest only comes to those who didn't pull up the roots halfway through. Be patient, be consistent, and what seems slow today will be admired tomorrow for its depth, its strength, and its permanence. Sacrifice number 9. Trade pride for the humility to learn. Have you noticed how hard it is for some people to say, "I don't know"? They pretend they've got it figured out. They avoid the topic. They leave the room when someone starts teaching. Why? Because admitting ignorance hurts the ego. But here's one of the greatest truths of success. If you're not humble enough to learn, you'll never be strong enough to win. Pride is the wall between you and your next level. What holds many people back isn't lack of opportunity. It's lack of humility. They think they know enough. They don't need advice. They believe there's nothing new under the sun. And while the world changes, they stay stuck in what they think they know. The result? Stagnation, repetition, arrogance disguised as confidence. The problem with pride is that it's comfortable. It protects your image. It shields you from looking weak, but it also shields you from evolving. Humility, on the other hand, takes courage, because when you place yourself in the seat of a learner, you open yourself up. You admit there's more, that you need help, that you're not the center of the universe. And that, my friend, is where true power begins. The people who win are lifelong students. They sit in the front row. They take notes. They ask questions. They read with hunger. They listen with an open heart. It doesn't matter how many degrees they have. What matters is how many questions they're still asking. Because they understand. Knowledge is infinite. And each lesson learned today can save years of failure tomorrow. You could be 40, 50, 60 years old and still have something to learn. A new way to manage money. A better way to lead. A skill the market is demanding. A behavior that could restore your relationships. Humility is what keeps you relevant. It's what keeps you alive and growing. Too much pride blinds you. You start rejecting feedback, ignoring red flags, resisting change. And before you know it, you've become hard to teach and even harder to be around. Humility opens doors. It creates connection. It attracts mentors. It makes you light. Because humble people can learn from anyone, even from the mistakes of others. Now hear this clearly. Humility is not weakness. It's not shrinking yourself. It's knowing your worth and still honoring the worth of others. It's being at the top and still acting like a student. It's listening intently, even when you already know the topic. Because a humble mind catches details a prideful one will always miss. Many times, the answer to your problem has already been spoken, but you didn't want to hear it, or you heard it and rejected it because the person sounded different, or thought bigger than you, or challenged your comfort zone. But when humility enters, criticism becomes opportunity. That book you skipped because it seemed too basic might be the one that changes your game. That simple piece of advice you brushed off could have been your breakthrough. The truth is, it's not that the messages are too simple. It's that your resistance is too high. And that resistance? That's pride. When you sacrifice pride, you start learning fast. Because you're no longer trying to look smart. You become curious. You admit what you don't know. And ironically, that's how you begin to know more than ever before. Because wisdom doesn't pour into a full cup. It needs space. Humility also helps you correct your course quickly. Proud people stay wrong just to save face. Humble people pause, apologize, adjust, and move forward stronger. That saves time, saves energy, saves your reputation. And in the game of life, the faster learner always wins. You don't need to be the smartest in the room. Just be the one who absorbs the most, the one who prepares, the one who asks, the one who applies. Pride lives on image. Humility lives on transformation. And those who transform consistently build results even pride can't ignore, but never fully understands. So don't fear being a student. Fear staying ignorant. Because ignorance is expensive. It ruins finances, relationships, and opportunities. All of it can be avoided with one decision. Sacrifice your ego and take your seat as a learner again. The world is full of mentors, but very few have the courage to be students. So here's my advice. Read more, listen deeper, ask better questions, accept feedback, seek mentors, and above all, be willing to say, I don't know yet, but I'm ready to learn. That one mindset opens doors that pride would have slammed shut forever. Sacrifice number 10. Trade reactivity for emotional intelligence. If you want to prosper, you must understand something fundamental. It's not what happens to you that shapes your life. It's how you respond to it. Emotionally poor people react to everything. A negative comment, a disappointment, a delay, a critique, everything becomes a trigger. They live in constant fight or flight mode. But the people who rise, they've learned how to master their emotions. They're not cold, they're conscious. Reactivity is automatic. It's raw. You act before you think, driven by anger, fear, or anxiety. Then regret follows. Then damage control. But sometimes the damage is already done. One careless word can ruin a relationship. One impulsive move can destroy an opportunity. Over time, small emotional explosions sabotage big life results. Emotional intelligence is the opposite. It's intentional. It's the art of pausing, of breathing, of responding with clarity when the world screams for chaos. People with emotional intelligence don't spend their lives putting out fires. They prevent them from starting. They understand their emotions and choose to lead them instead of being led by them. This sacrifice is invisible. No one sees the effort it takes not to lash out. No one applauds you for holding your tongue. But that inner strength is one of the most valuable assets you'll ever build. Because life tests you all the time. Difficult people, unfair situations, unexpected setbacks. You can't control the tests, but you can control how you respond to them. The top 5% aren't the luckiest. They're not the strongest physically. They're the most emotionally stable. They stay calm in chaos. They don't get pulled into drama. They don't react just to prove something. They understand. Peace of mind is worth more than winning an argument. Reactivity comes from ego. Emotional intelligence comes from maturity. Reactivity wants to be right. Emotional intelligence wants to grow. One wins battles. The other builds legacies. In the end, those who stay focused win more than those who always need to be right. Now, let's be clear. I'm not saying you should tolerate everything. I'm saying choose your battles wisely. Not every insult deserves a reply. Not every problem is a personal attack. Sometimes it's just life checking your growth. And often, silence is the most powerful response. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you know your energy is too valuable to waste on things that don't elevate you. Emotional intelligence protects you, not just from others, but from yourself. Because the biggest threat to your progress is often internal. That voice that says you're not enough. That knee-jerk fear that makes you retreat. Training your emotions is like building invisible muscles. No one sees them, but everyone feels the results. Reacting is easy. Growing takes practice. And that practice happens in the small, daily moments. When you hear a criticism and stay composed. When a problem arises and you search for solutions instead of panic. When someone treats you poorly and you respond with grace. Each act of self-control brings you closer to your best self. Emotionally strong people feel everything, but they don't act on everything. They choose what to do with what they feel. And that choice changes everything, because life is built on decisions. And the best decisions are made in calm, not in rage. How many doors have you closed because you reacted too fast? How many chances have you lost by not pausing before you acted? Reactivity is impulsive. Emotional intelligence has vision. And those with vision build what reactivity destroys. Prosperity lives in stable environments. And nothing creates more stability than a trained, centered mind. This sacrifice will cost you. Your pride, your ego, your desire to reply to everything. Your urge to control the uncontrollable. But in exchange, it gives you something rare. Mastery over yourself. And the person who can lead themselves can lead in anything. So ask yourself, are you willing to trade the relief of reaction for the strength of maturity? Are you ready to choose self-control over emotional chaos? Because this is one of the highest tests of greatness. And here's the truth. When you become unshakable on the inside, the world starts to respect you on the outside.